What is up, guys? It's Mac, and I'm here with a ramble about my Indianapolis Regionals performance and weekend. I took the deck Ancient Box to Indianapolis and had a really solid finish, and so I'd like to go over my matchups and kind of what happened and kind of how I got here as far as like a prep situation and then where my season goes kind of from this spot. So I did really bad at, I say really bad, but I did not where I wanted to do at at Orlando. I ended 6-3 or 5-3-1, one of the two. I was 256 because my resistance was really good. And I just didn't want to play Arceus Fire again. That's what I played it at that, and I didn't want to keep playing it. And Jake Ewert had a really, really good run, got second at Orlando, and the deck list was really cool. He was from Wisconsin. I have a couple friends that are really good friends with him. And I was like, yo, that deck actually looks sick. I want to try that out and I want to test it. Also, a quick shout out because I did basically steal the archetype from him wherever he got it. I don't know. He could have stolen it too. But he does coaching on Ancient Box. So if you want to get your foot in the door with Ancient, and because I think it will be really good after the next set comes out, then yeah, definitely he's on Twitter doing coaching and stuff. So go check him out. But I looked into it there, and so I played a bunch on live, and I really liked it after playing on live. I felt like you could win against everything, and when I make my deck choices, I don't really want to play anything polarizing or anything that's like a spin the wheel matchup wise. I kind of want to have a good matchup across the board, and it felt like Ancient had really good matchups across the entire board. So you have probably a 45-55 against Charizard. If they draw optimally, then you lose. But if they miss a beat at any time, you put on a ton of pressure, and you can easily win that matchup, which I show in my tournament when we go over the games. But all the decks that do really, really good against Charizard are such good matchups for you. So you have a Gardevoir, super easy matchup. You have Chempao, super easy matchup. You have Lost Tina, super easy matchup. Super easy matchup. Arceus Tina, not super easy, but is a winnable matchup. Is a, I would say, favored matchup. I know not everybody agrees with me, but I would say favorable matchup. And they just felt like playing the percentages. This was a really good list, so I decided to take it to. I had a double cup weekend and I had a challenge weekend, and they were kind of important for my season two. And I won the challenge 5-0. I was only trying to replace like a top four with a first, and so I was able to do that. And then I went to the first cup, and I was the one seed through Swiss, and I lost in top four because I double bricked against Charizard. And then the second one, I was the one seed through Swiss again, and I lost in the finals to Dylan Gunn because he's a hoe. And I didn't really fully brick, but my board state was just really whack the entire time we played. He was playing Tina, and Dylan's obviously an insane player. So anytime that you're not like playing all the way up to it or have all the cards you need, it can be really tough. But altogether, 14, 2, and 1 in those. And so I was like, okay, this deck's actually legit. Middle Tennessee is actually really, really good. That's where I play my locals. And we're actually really, really good. We had like I don't know, 10 people come to Indy. Three of us made top 64. Six of us made day two, and three of us lost our winning in, or two of us lost our winning in, something like that. It was actually kind of crazy. A lot of really good players here. So to do that good at locals was awesome. Then I took the list to the late night, and I had a lot of you reach out and congratulate me on the late night. So thank you very much. I got third place there, and that was pretty cool to get some more confidence. Just keep kind of building the. I just wanted to play like a couple rounds to see, or like to get some confidence with the deck and kind of see where it would go. And I just kept winning. I went 8-1 in Swiss, carried all the way to top four, beat Charizard in top eight. Like yeah, I definitely could tell right then and there that the deck was like what I wanted to play. So my version of Ancient is still very close to what everyone else is playing. After all that testing, after all those games, I decided that the fire energy just was never really used. And not only that, but Koraidon is just not the best Pokemon. I almost never want to attack with it. I honestly could probably count on one hand how many times I attacked with it in the entire weekend of Indy, both day one and day two. So I cut a Koraidon and I cut the fire. And I added in a heavy ball, which my list says Ultra Ball, but we'll get to that later. And I added in a vacuum. So that's what I was playing. The vacuum is insane in the mirror. insane against Cape Zard. The only way you win against Cape Zard. And also listen. Oh, and then it's like a win more card in a couple other matchups like Gardevoir and stuff. But anyways, so that's kind of what I went into it with. I did want to play the Cobalion as well, but I'd been playing the Cobalion even though Jake wasn't like from the beginning, because I just know in my area there's a lot of Charizard, and so I figured since that's your worst matchup, I'm gonna play as many cards that help with the Zard matchup as possible. And Jake did end up playing it at this event too, so that kind of solidified my opinion when I saw that he also had it. I was like, okay, I'm not entirely stupid. It is definitely worth it in the deck. But so my matchups for the tournament. Round one, I played against the Heart and Soul of Pokemon Regionals, which is the person that goes with a fun deck to have fun. And it's so crazy to sit down, and I need like a 128 for my World's Invite to be kind of reasonable to obtain. And this guy is just sitting there like, I'm here to have fun. I'm just a cool guy, good vibes at the table. Like, it really made my like anxiety go away playing against someone that just brought the vibes like that. Like Brady was very cool and very fun to play against. And Brady was playing. He flipped over a Alolan Rattata and a, oh man, what was the other card? And a Wooper, and a Paldean Wooper. He was playing Raticate with the Clodsire, and unfortunately for Brady, um, he didn't play Vacuum, and I play 4 Ancient Booster Capsules, which stop you from getting status. So that was about as easy of a round one as it could be. Unfortunate for Brady, because Brady was an awesome guy who, as you see, he played all the way through his 9 events like a Chad. Like that is so sick. 1, 6, and 2 with a Alolan Raticate is nothing to scoff at, and the guy was cooler than every single person he sat down across from. I guarantee you. In round two, I played against Scotty Gore, who was playing Arctina. I believe my round two is against Arctina. Yes, that was Arctina. And game one was a pretty long game one. It was the typical like Arceus and like Arceus versus Ancient matchup where they take a lead, but I held my stop, so every time he laid down the also the a really important thing in this matchup was I promoted Great Tusk as my first attacker, like every time, because the first Pokemon that you promote is always getting Lost Zoned, like every time. Like they're always gonna put down Lost City when they kill your first guy, and Great Tusk is one of those Pokemon that for whatever reason, players just do not want to gust around. If you put a Fluttermane or if you put a Koraidon, they're gusting around him. But if you put a Great Tusk up there, they're like, please don't mill these cards I need for the next turn, whatever it may be in their head. And so they just get terrified and they kill it. So both games, I would lead the Great Tusk and he'd kill it, and he'd put it in the Lost Zone, and then I'd bounce the Lost Zone thing, the Lost City, and he took the first 3 prizes, and then I went 2, 4, 6 to win the game. And then in the second game, he was not drawing super well. He had a really thin board state, and anytime that an Arceus or a Charizard player has got to hit your stop, it's not good. And he had to hit my stop, and it was just absolute destruction when he hit my Pokestop. Just discarded every card he has ever wanted in his entire life. But Scotty was a very nice person, a really cool guy to play against. But yeah, I got the 2-0 there. In round 3, I played Alex Espinoza, and Alex was playing Charizard, and so this was my first Charizard of the day. And Alex, in the first game, I believe, just didn't have that solid of a setup, and this is kind of how Ancient wins the Charizard matchup at a regional level. Is if Charizard draws optimally, they're going to win almost every time. Because they are going to have the Charmeleon set up where they can do the Turo play on turn 2 or turn 3, or sorry, Turo play turn 3, which makes it really hard when you fall behind and you have to hit certain numbers to be able to get the one shot on the Charizard late game, and also you have to hit the counter catcher onto the Pidgeot right away, and you also have had to take the first knockout because they're going to force you down to one prize when you KO the Charizard, and or they're going to force you down to two when you KO the Charizard, and you're going to have to gust around the Radzard, and it's hard to find Gust at the end of the game while also Sadaing. Anyways, that it's kind of hard. However, if they miss a beat and they're not able to consistently Turo, then your tempo as a one prizer deck is just way too much for them to handle. And you're able to get ahead, get a full board. I remember in this game, he decided to gust my Cobalion, and this happened a lot throughout the weekend too. Is I would lay down Cobalion early, and my Charizard opponents would just be like, "Yep, that's him. There he is. I want every gun we have firing on that man," and they would gust him every time, which I think is a really big misplay to gust the Cobalion early game because I'm already two-shotting you anyway. The pushing me from 170 to 200 or 180 to 210, it doesn't really matter. That math is never going to be relevant. And what you're allowing is the ancient player to hold their moon with the two energies on it. And so now they're going to be able to solder to two more. And so they're going to set up the additional attackers where even when those Iono and those Roxanne turns come out, like it doesn't matter because the ancient player is already set up and they're milling cards during those turns as well. So it's the damage numbers get really high. All they got to do is Pokestop into a counter catcher at some point off one of the Ionos, and it's really really bad for Charizard. And so that's kind of what happened in those games was that he would gust my Cobalion. He got behind a little bit, so he couldn't Iono, and things just got like they went from bad to worse, and so I won. In round 4, it was Dustin Parker, who's actually a local, and literally after round 3, he was talking about how his luck was really good, and he was looking forward to falling off the face of the earth now that he like started 3-0 because he hasn't been practicing. He's really good at Lorcana, so he's been playing a lot of Lorcana lately. But he has a lot of day twos in the past. He's a really good player. Unfortunately, didn't get there this weekend, but it's just because he has his priorities other places. He's a really, really solid player. But he absolutely cooked me in this game. He did not miss a beat either game. He drew insane. He misplayed really badly in the first game. And he thought he had a Charizard in his deck, and so he played, I believe, Ultra Ball before quick searching. And so he didn't have a Charizard, which meant that he had to quick search for a Super Rod, and then he had to Super Rod his one Charizard into his 30-something card deck, maybe 25 to 35 card deck in between there somewhere, and then Iono himself to 4, and he drew he drew Candy Charizard off of the Iono to 4. So sometimes people just want it more than you, and that's kind of what that was, but I got cooked both those games. Charizard didn't miss a beat, and that's all it was. In round 5, and this is also my like flow chart, is I've started out almost every regional 3-0 this season, and then I lose round 4, and I almost always lose. Oh my god, I almost always lose in round 4, but I almost always win in round 5, and that exact same thing happened this time. And so round 5, I got the Ancient Mirror, and he went second, I believe. And he took the first knockout on the first turn because I led Fluttermane and I couldn't get it out of the active. I led solo Fluttermane and I couldn't move it. So I went down super early in this game to Justin Hess, but I was able to attack turn 2 and put a capsule on my guy, and I did 160. And so what doing 160 on his Roaring Moon did that turn was it meant that when it came back to him, he wasn't able to knock out my guy with a capsule, and I play vacuum. So next turn, I vacuumed his moon, and then I gusted up his other moon when he promoted the Greninja or whatever, the Koraidon, whatever he promoted, and then I gusted up the other moon, and I killed both of them, and now I'm in the prize lead. And so being able to take 2 in a turn is super super good in the matchup. The vacuum helped a lot, and so did Cobalion, and we were able to get there. In the second game, he was able to take the first prize again. I believe he chose to go second again because he won the toss the first time, and he took the first prize again. And this time, I was not able to respond and get the attack and then have the multiple knockout turn with vacuum. So, in a very long game two that went all the way down to the last turn of time, he had spread all of his energy out on everybody, and then he misplayed, and this was what killed him, is he laid down an extra moon. He had like three energies on a moon. I kept him with I think it was like two on a Coridon or two on a Fluttermane or something. I kept him with it. And so he didn't have any energy left in the deck. He had Sada and no energy left on the bench or in the discard as well. So I counter catchered up his moon that had no energy, and I Great Tusked 4, and he drew his card for turn. He looked at his hand. He looked through his discard. He looked through his hand again. And then he's like, I have no energy. I have no way to retreat. I don't play Penny. You're just going to keep milling me. You got it. And so I was able to steal game two, which would have been a tie. Another one of those games that Great Tusk is able to pull out because it has, yeah, just a unique way to MacGyver wins with this deck that other decks don't have the win condition of. And then in round six, I played Andy Fish, who I referred to as Mr. Fish all weekend. He started Luminion against me, which was very funny as someone named Mr. Fish. But then he proceeded to cook me. He played Charizard. He did not miss a beat. He did not misplay at all. Guy was a very good player. Also a very fun guy to play against. Super sad to lose that game because now I got to win my last two to ID in the last round if I can even do that. But if I'm gonna lose to anybody, Andy Fish was a very cool guy. Was a very pleasant experience and a very good player. Unfortunate that he couldn't get there. I know he said something about a gentleman's agreement went wrong and maybe that's why he didn't make day two. Or just bad luck. I forget. I don't want to like misspeak. Because I asked him when I was playing in day two. I walked by when I was getting food and I asked him, and he said something about that was why he missed at 6-3. But 18 points is still pretty good, and I believe Mr. Fish is getting his Worlds invite, so congrats to him. And then in round 7, I played a Pokedad named Tom Muzek, and we sat down. I was like, how's your season going? You know, the typical questions, like, where are you from? How's your season going? Yeah, stuff like that. And he's like, well, I got like 5 championship points or 10 championship points, something like that. I got top 4 to challenge. And I was like, oh, cool. That's awesome, man. And you're doing really well at the tournament today. He's like, yeah, and I just wanted a winning record. And I was like, sick. That's actually so cool. You're popping up. And then he asked me, I told him that I needed a day 2. I needed a win out or whatever. So the pressure's on me right now. And I wished I was him so I could just chill and have a good time because I get so much anxiety with these tournaments and stuff now that the invites crunching down. And he's like, yeah, cool, we'll have a fun game. I mean, kind of similar to the Brady Smith guy where he just like he had a good vibe. However, the vibe shifted when the game started and he flips over Flittle Natu because that is definitely one of my worst matchups. However, that deck sucks. And I refuse to believe that Espathra is a real deck because he did not attack me until turn 3 either game. And this is not just like a when I played against Tom thing. Like in my testing, when I played against this deck, it just never works. Maybe I'm just the Espathra curse. But in my first game, I got to put 3 energies on a Fluttermane and attack and ping both of his Espathras so that way when I get my moons going, I could go 2-4-6 super quickly and win. Was not a close game 1. And then game 2, he turbo brick, just drew absolutely nothing. Was not a fun time for him at all, and it was unfortunate. I say the vibe went away, but I just meant like on my end, I was like, oh man, I'm really losing to fucking Espathra to close out the weekend, huh? That's really how this is gonna go. That just summarizes my season. But we got there, and that was great. So, and then in round 8, I played against William Cornelison, and this guy was really cool. He is a lot like me, where he said that he'd lost like his last 3 or 4 win-ins. That's not where I'm at now. I'm like a 2 out of 3 in my last regionals now, but early in the season it was a lot of those where you're like almost there and you're just not getting over the hump. So I definitely felt for this guy because we're both playing for a chance to ID in round 9. And we flip over our cards and he's playing Iron Hands, and I've like tested against this a lot because I originally thought this was like the worst matchup that we had as Ancient, but it's really not that bad for two reasons. The main reason is the deck just sucks. They just like a Spathro where it's your bad matchup, but like the deck just doesn't function half the time, and so you just kind of like you win games off of that, right? But game one, William just absolutely cooks my shit. He like turn two amps me and takes a two prize lead before I can do anything, and it's just it goes from bad to worse real quick. I'm able to bring it back and take a knockout to go up where if he's not able to find four energies onto an Iron Hands on the last turn that I win. But he plays Generator gets one. He plays like Research, and then he attaches from hand, and then he Generators again and gets two. I don't know how many energy were left in his deck, but the deck plays a million. So I mean, it was the very end of the game. I'd already killed an Iron Hands with four, and a Miraidon with. But I mean, it is whatever. Like it wasn't too lucky. Like he just kind of beat me. In game two, the opposite happened. He went Miraidon, Iron Crown, pass. I went knockout Miraidon on turn one. He went promote Iron Crown. Let's go to game three. So we went to game three, and in game three, he again just didn't have a super solid setup, and so his Miraidon KO'd my Fluttermane, which I think is ideal on that first turn. I don't know why. I think Iron Hands players are just this might sound disrespectful. I think, but I'm also like an Iron Hands player at heart because I played a ton of Miraidon as well. But it's like I feel like Iron Hands players are just a little bit unga bunga, where like they see Guy and they need to kill Guy. Like they don't really think about much else. But what happens when the Miraidon kills the Fluttermane is number one, that KO doesn't matter because you're going 2-4-6 with Amp anyway, ideally. I guess maybe if you're afraid of Capsule, which he didn't play Vacuum, or maybe he did. I don't think he played Vacuum, but if you're afraid of Vacuum, then you can't KO with Amp unless you have all four, and that can be really hard. Sorry, my brain just farted for a second. But if you do kill the Fluttermane, it means that Countercatcher's active for the Ancient Box player. And so they can go Moon, Countercatcher, Iron Crown, which is exactly what I did game three. I went Moon, Countercatcher, KO, Iron Crown. I couldn't find a Capsule, though. So he promoted and he amped me back. And then on that next turn, I went again, Countercatcher, KO, Iron Crown. Well, he was at 3 and I was at 4. I KO'd the Iron Crown going to 2, and now he's at 3. I'm at 2, and I found a Capsule this time. So not only will he have to Iron Press me or like arm press me this turn, but those two cards going into the discard pile were what I needed to reach 230 next turn. So essentially checkmate at that point of the game. And so I believe he like went into Miraidon and tried to like ping me once or something, but I was able to gust around it and able to win the game. So we got there. And then in round 9 with no lunch break, I was really hoping to be able to ID, because after the disappointment at Orlando, I really wanted to just be playing some Sunday Pokemon, and I only needed 128 for my regional or for my Worlds invite to be reasonable. So I was like, this is cool. I'm just going to ID in. And I sat down against Owen Rhodes, who is a friend of my friend Christian. And Owen was awesome. And he's playing Pidgeot Control, and he had a great run over the weekend as well. I believe he finished just under me, I think like 50 or something, but we had like the same record. So really happy for him as well. Pidgeot Control did really good. And I was practiced for the Pidgeot Control matchup. I would have liked to play him just because he seemed like a really good player, and it would have been fun. I actually, a lot of people hate Control and they get so mad, but if you're letting Control make you mad, you're already like losing the matchup. Like you can't get, it's a valid archetype and it's a valid way to play the game. And if you're just going to be angry about it, you're not going to improve at all. You're not going to help yourself. And I think the Control matchup's fun. And I think it's also fine for Ancient Box as well. I think Ancient Box does pretty good. Cobalion kind of hurts it because you just allow yourself to have an auto lose condition of starting Cobalion. I guess you play Penny, but there's still ways for them to do shit, and you need Penny for other reasons. But that would have been interesting. However, congrats to Owen for his day 2 and awesome run. And he seemed like a really cool guy. So round 10, I played against Josh Wheeler, who was really cool. Really fun to play against this guy. He added me on Twitter after the thing. He was a Pokey Dad out of Detroit. Shout out to the Lions. Even though I'm a Packer fan, nothing but respect. And he played Charizard, and game one was he had a really thin board state, and he only had one Charmander, and he had a bunch of outs through like Iono and then like Bib. I think it was Bib and then Iono. Um, he had a Charmeleon, and he was trying to evolve into Charizard to take a return knockout. He was already down a lot, and he whiffed it off of the Iono plus Bib combo. However, that ended up working out. And so he could not evolve, and it was his only Charmeleon, and it was stuck in the active. And so we started the next turn. He just passed, but he laid down collapsed, and I nest balled under collapsed. And so I laid down one moon from my hand, and I nest balled the other. And like both of us sat there for a second, and then I was about to do my second action, and he was like, "Oh wait, there's collapse. You can't nest ball." He's like, "That was from the deck, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did one from the deck, one from my hand." And he's like, "We'll just pick up the one from your hand." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." I mean, I expect people to play by the rules, and even when I don't, like that's on me. Like that was a bad mistake that I made. But he was really cool about that. And then he was like, "Yeah, let's just go to game two." Because in fairness, even if it's like a DPL or something, I KO his only Charmander. I'm up. Well, it would have been tied on prizes 2-2. And he would have had no Charmanders in play, and I was at like 230 in the discard, or like I would have been doing 230, so like reachable by Pidgeot with the guidance next turn. So it would have been hard either way, but you never know how those could have gone, and so I really appreciate him being cool. It was like 8:30 in the morning. It was the first game of the day, and I just made a dumb decision, and I appreciate his graces. He was an awesome guy. And game two, I was not awesome to him because he started. Well, I started Great Tusk, and he started like pretty well. He got his board all filled up, but I got to mill on the first turn, and my mill on the first turn was Charizard, Pidgeot, Candy, and like collapsed or Turo, one of the two, one of those. And so that was like, oh man, that's crazy. And the worst thing for him was he missed Evo on the second turn. Maybe because of it, maybe not. I'm not sure. I know one of the Pidgeots was gone, but like but he missed Evo on the second turn again. Really bad luck for Josh, and so I milled again. Candy, Rod, and something else, and so he's now down 3 candies. He's got a Charmeleon because he evolved it, but he's just down so much. And I laid down an Ancient Booster Capsule on my Great Tusk so that he would vacuum it, and then when I lay down my second one, because I haven't taken a prize yet, I'm only milling, that he has to two-shot it, so I can hopefully get all of his resources while he's taking those first two prizes, and then I just have a really thin board state without a Pidgeot on it for me to be able to win the game. And I was able to do that. I was able to mill again, and my second mill got the last candy, or I said second mill. It was like my fourth mill at this point. It was able to get candy and the second rod. So unfortunately, he had to concede. He wasn't able to set up. But awesome guy. Shout out to Josh. Really good finish by him too, making day two and doing well. I believe his son's chasing his invite and is almost there. So good luck to them for sure. And then in round 11, I played Evan Campbell, who is a name I've known because I've been playing since like 2011, and he's also a bit of an old head, and so that was really cool playing against him. He's a very knowledgeable on the game, I could tell right away, and just a very pleasant person to play with. Honestly, like almost everybody I played this weekend, I think everybody was like really fun to play with. So that it was very cool in that regard, considering how stressed out I was about my performance. But against Evan Campbell, I won a really long game one, which is ideally how you want your game to go with Ancient Box. You've got so many actions you got to take that your game ends up being really long, and then if you win game one, you can't finish game two. And so I won game one, and then game two, I had a little bit of a rocky start, and so I kind of knew I was gonna lose. But there wasn't a whole lot of time left, so I tried my best to like, extend the game, like never, but never slow play, but like use my actions to like extend the game where it's unfinishable. But Evan's a really good player, so he played really quickly, and he did everything in his power to not allow me to extend the game. Always had Turo, always had all these things, and so he was able to finish the game pretty much right before time was called, and then we started game 3. I set up my board. He had only a Charmander in play, and I whiffed the turn 1 attack because I started Greninja. And if I start Greninja, I don't play any switch cards. I can't turn 1 attack. He literally goes Charmander pass. I go Greninja, and then set up my whole board. I get ready to attack turn 2, and they call time, and he's like, I've got Rare Candy Charizard, and I have 2 bench Pokemon, and he shows it to me, or like whatever it was. And so we just took the tie. It would have ended up being a tie anyway, but we just didn't want to waste our time. But very fun guy to play. Another Charizard, 3 Charizards in a, or no, at this point it was only 2 Charizards in a row, day 2. And I was winning tie, and I knew tying Evan Campbell was good because, again, I think he's a really good player. So, well, I know he's a really good player, so it was nice. And then in round 12, I played Mauricio Martinez, and it was almost, well, it was a little bit different. So it was almost the same way as the Evan Campbell Charizard game, except for game 1 went a little bit differently, but it did end up being a really long game 1, and then we couldn't finish game 2. In game 1, it went down to the very end, and Mauricio was playing super well throughout the game. He drew really, really hot, but he was misplaying in the fact that he was like overextending and not thinking about the Great Tusk. I did discard it early, but that doesn't mean anything. I've got double rod. I can always rod, nest ball, and attack with it. And so he was addicted to like every turn bibbing for 4 or bibbing for 3. He even hit my stop a couple times, and he would quick search, and it was just kind of like he just wanted to enhance his board state, just make his board state as solid as possible. Was always Turoing, and the problem with Turoing is that if you Turo, you then have to evolve into a new Charizard and then search your deck for 2 more energies, and you're searching your deck for the resources to evolve that new Charizard. So this was happening. This happened like twice. I think he double Turoed me. But he got all the way down to 4 cards. I super rotted back the Great Tusk. And so he knew that it was a possibility, but he was so worried about the Moons and the Active being able to one-shot stuff that he didn't play a Super Rod with 4 cards left in his deck. And so I was able to steal game 1 with a Great Tusk Mill on the last turn. And then in game 2, he played almost the exact same way, except for didn't make the mistake of drawing too much. So again, played insane the second game, drew insane the second game. And just couldn't finish the game in time. Like, we got to 3 prizes. He on the very last turn, he decided to quick search and do some extended actions instead of just announcing attack. And if he would have just announced attack, we would have tied, and I would have gotten another draw to Charizard there. So then in round 13, I played against Aiden Toller, who he was playing the Mirror, but he wasn't playing Vacuum, and he wasn't playing Cobalion, so that's a really big boost for me. However, he did play Dark Patch, which is a really big boost for him, because what that means is that you can Guidance and ramp to that like 14 or 200 like right away, and play your Dark Patches to be able to attack. Like, you don't have to just single attach every turn. So I thought that was really cool. I personally think Dark Patches are a little bit too clunky for me, but they really worked for him in game 1. And game 1, I bricked so hard. This is the worst I bricked, I think, the entire day. This was just terrible. Like, game 1 was so sad. I had double Flutter Mains on the board. I had a Greninja on the board. The Greninja kept drawing me into more energies and not any Pokemon. I started the game with like both Super Rod, my Pal Pad, both counter catchers in my hand, like just nothing playable, no supporters. Like, it was just terrible. I bricked really, really bad, and so he got game 1. And after game 1 was over, which also it came down to, he had 5 cards left in his deck, and I Great Tusk milled. But because he was conscious of that 1 card, and I couldn't Great Tusk Mill a second time, because I would have done it 1 turn earlier and maybe had it, but my hand was so bad I didn't have double Sada, so I could only Sada to the Great Tusk 1 time to get the to get the attack. I had Nest Ball and Super out of my hand, but no like second supporter. So it was just kind of rough. I mean, I guess if I would have Sada the first time, maybe there's a chance I draw another Sada off of that. But it was just I only had one Sada left in my deck and like 25 cards because I hadn't gotten to do anything all game. Um, but I missed game by one card. But like that's intentional. That's how he ended up like making his board state. That was on purpose. And then we got deck checked, and if you look up my limitless entry for the late night, you will see the list where I play heavy ball. I played heavy ball at the cup, and I have only copied and pasted my list between these different events, like on Arcanine Labs, because I use it to print off my deck lists for cups and stuff. I've only copied and pasted them. However, when they came back from my deck check, they told me that my list said 3 Ultra Ball, which I still like. Obviously, something happened, and the error is unfortunate, whether it be my fault or not. But me, I firmly believe that it was a software error or something that was out of my control. But they gave me a round loss for it, and not a DQ, which is nice. I didn't appeal because in the moment I was honestly so shocked that could happen. Because again, I've only played the same list. Like I've adjusted other stuff, but I've never played 3 Ultra Ball, and I've always played Heavy Ball. I've adjusted other things. If something else was different, like if my list had said Fire Energy, then like that's fine. But it didn't. It said, yeah. Anyways, that's just really frustrating. And so instead of us getting to play another game and this probably being a tie, which if this is a tie and I win my last 2 rounds, I'm in top 32 and I get $1,000. Instead, it becomes a loss, and so I'm on win 2 for top 64, bubble 32, depending on how everything else goes, but probably win 2 for 64. And so that was really unfortunate. And yeah, my bank account is really mad at Big Pikachu for not allowing it to have $1,000 in it, because I firmly believe that it wasn't my fault, but you never know. I could have done something. It is something to live and learn by. I will quadruple check my lists, even if I'm using the same one I've been using for the past couple of weeks. I will quadruple check again. And so that was unfortunate. However, while we were waiting on the deck check, me and Aiden played a best of 69 rock paper scissors, because apparently you're not allowed on your phone during deck check, which is the dumbest thing. I've been on my phone when I've been deck checked before. I don't know if that's a new rule or if these judges just didn't know, but yeah, they didn't allow us. And so then I was up like, I don't know, 25-18 or something. I mean, rock paper scissors is a game of momentum. It could have changed at any moment. He could have brought it back. However, then the judges made us stop playing rock paper scissors. So it's like, what are we supposed to do? We just got to sit here and twiddle our thumbs for 20 minutes while we wait for you guys. But Aiden was a very funny guy. I'm glad he had a good run too. He ended up with 32 points. I'm not sure if that means that he lost his last 2 after beating me there. No. He won. He went 1-1 after beating me there. But he had a pretty similar moon list. But yeah, I can't remember if he played. I feel like he played Big Moon. I think yeah, he did, and he played Big Moon, which is also pretty good for my matchup. But anyways, I really wish I could run that back, because I think that's a winning matchup for me in my head. Very similar to Moon, which you have a really good matchup with. This was that without the Dunsparce, so I think it's probably really good. But anyways, we move on. There's nothing I can do about it now, but that was my only loss in day 2, and it wasn't a loss. So then in round 14, I played against John, who was playing in his first ever day 2 and was doing really well with the Lost Paradox box. And that matchup is just abysmal for Lost Paradox box. Like, I started as badly as I possibly could in game 1. That's actually kind of a theme for the last 2 matches. And I still ended up winning that game. That was pretty bad. There's just not much that they can do. And then game 2, I started Flutter Mane, which made it even worse. But that matchup is just really polarizing, and Sableye is just not very good, and the 2 prizers get one shot. I had a really cool play game 1 where his deck was getting really low. and I was behind by one prize because of how badly I started, and so I made him waste a lot of resources because I promoted Great Tusk and I milled for. And so as I did that, it made him need to have all these answers to where Great Tusk Mill again isn't gonna lose the game. And so he played out things really weirdly. And so I was able to then just go two prize knockout on Raikou, two prize knockout on the Iron Hands to win the game. And he was four prizes when I did the Great Tusk thing, and I hadn't taken a prize. No, and I had taken like one or something. I can't remember. Anyways, ended up going 4-6 to win. And then game two, he lost zone to gate early, and then used all three other gates to power up the Iron Hands and one Greninja, and I let the Greninja like attack, and then I killed the Iron Hands, and so now he has no more gates left, and the game was just kind of over. He was also behind early because I started Flutter Mane, as I said, and it just wasn't really good. I mean, he played as good as you can play, a very solid player, just wasn't his wasn't his matchup. Wasn't his matchup. And then I played against Hunter Smith in round 15, who was awesome. This kid was really, really cool. He's been playing since like 2011 when he was like 5. Just really good vibes. Kind of eccentric kid, a very loud, very quick with his like movements and stuff. You know, like he's a zoomer. That is what they are. But super cool kid. A very fun playing against. And so game one, I draw past. Oh, Benny was playing Chiempao, which I've been waiting to see all weekend. After every round, I'm like, please just give me a Chiempao. There's so many here. They're all near the top tables. Like, I just got to get up there, and I'm going to have only Chiempao matchups, and I'm going to win this tournament. It's going to be so crazy. And I couldn't find him all day until the last round. I found Hunter. And in game one, I draw past for 4 turns, and I still came back and won. And then in game two, he played insane. I skipped a single beat, and when I skipped the single beat, he just took everything. I also couldn't find my capsules game two, which makes the matchup like a little bit harder. And my penny got Pokestopped on turn 1, and so until I'm back at like until my deck's under like 15 cards, I don't have a real good like pal pad and then go for the penny play. And when he's attacking turn 2, putting on that much pressure with Greninja, I'm needing to Sada every turn for answers, and so penny just becomes hard to do. And he got to go first that game, so it is what it is. And then game 3, we had already made a gentleman's agreement before the game that whoever's ahead on prizes at the end wins. And so time got called right after game 2, because if we win, then we're guaranteed top 64. If we lose, we're already guaranteed top 128. So there's no reason for us to tie. It doesn't make any sense for either of us. We were both at the exact same points trying to get into Worlds. And so that 50 or like 60 or 40 like really mattered. And so they called time right at the time after we got done with game 2, and I said I was gonna go first. I'd already decided that, which is I think why we were allowed to even play out game 3 for those turns. But apparently, when time is called at like after a game 2 and a best of 3, there's no turn 0, and so it just went. I was turn 1, and then like Hunter was turn 2 as Chiempao, and I was turn 3, and so. I went on turn 1. I had a really good hand. I'm not able to play any supporters on the first hand, obviously, but I get my Greninja down. I led my Roaring Moon and an energy. So I get to Roaring Moon, attach energy, and then I get to pass or whatever. And he led only a Friggy. So he then plays out his turn a little bit, but he only goes Greninja, attach energy, retreat into Greninja, and then pass. So I have to hit 130 to be able to win the game. And I play Guidance, and Guidance not only doesn't give me a second energy, but it also doesn't give me like any ancient cards to discard. Now my hand for the next turn has another Guidance, but this turn I don't get to play shit. I don't get to do anything. So I was really hoping for a vessel or at least a stop or at least some ancient cards, but it was like double counter catcher, double nest ball, Pokegear vacuum or something like insane like that, just really really bad. Um, and so I can't attack, and so the judge is like, "All right, that is it. That's your +3 turns." And my opponent Hunter's like, "Well, can we like talk out like how the match would have gone?" And the judge is like, "You guys can talk out however you want to decide how this match ended. You guys can do it." And so Hunter's like, "All right, so I'm gonna show you like how my turn would have gone, and if I can't get the knockout, then I'm gonna give it to you." And I was like, "Well, you don't have to promise to give it to me, but yeah, show me if you can win, because then I would have given it to him." And so Hunter walked through his turn. He played his cards, and he played the concealed cards, and he played a Pokestop, and he stopped, and he did not hit any cards that would have gotten him a knockout. So he extended the hand and said, "You got it." So awesome, awesome kid Hunter. If we would have gotten to that moment where we both didn't take, and he would have just said we should tie, I would have not I wouldn't have taken anything away from him. But if he would have been able to show me a way that he could have won, I would have given it to him. So I'm glad that he did the same. Awesome kid. And he's really close to his invite too. I think he'll probably get there. So I really hope that he does. But he's like been to many worlds in the past, so obviously a good player. But yeah, that was my run at Indy. I ended 46th out of whatever it was. Yeah, it says 2785 or whatever. I don't know if that's the right number, but that's just what it says in the tournament on Arcanine. But super fun run. That was the best tournament run that I've ever had. Should not have lost in day two. Should have been in top eight. Honestly, should have probably won the whole tournament. But like, because if I win that game, everything comes down to my. If I win round 13, everything comes down to what I'm paired against round 14. Because 14, there would have been a lot of decks I could have gotten paired against. But if I win that, my win in was almost guaranteed to be against Chimpao. Like it was either Chimpao or it was Lost Paradox Box, and both are insane. There was no, well, I guess it could have been Ian Robb who was on Charizard, and that would have been. I mean, he would have better played me and also match up me, so that would have been really really rough. But there was a high chance, and then once you got in the top eight, you saw it was four Chimpao, a Paradox box, and then Dialga and then Ian Robb. So if I just dodged the Charizard, all the others are pretty good matchups, but. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, and all you can do is just keep improving and not make the same mistake twice ever, and we move on. So I'm at like 506 points right now going into NAIC, and with NAIC I get 100 points for top 128. So top 128 will get me my invite. So that is what we are reaching for right now, and I hope I'm able to get there. I have a couple cups next weekend that I'm still deciding on what I want to play. Either going to be Ancient again, or because everyone in my local area loves to hate me and play decks that beat me, I might play Chimpao. Because I think that Chimpao doesn't auto lose to Dialga like people are saying. The matchup's hard, but I do think there are ways to win. And I still just want to just beat Charizard. Like if everyone's gonna play Charizard, because they are just waiting for Twilight Masquerade and just locking in the same deck they've been playing, I will probably play Chimpao just so I get a bunch of easy games. But that is what it is. I can improve some points and then hopefully have an easier finish at NAIC. But because I only have one cup win this whole season, the rest are it's like 3 seconds and then 3 top fours. Yeah, 3 seconds, 3 top fours. Yeah. So, or no, 3 seconds, 2 top fours. Yeah, but I can hopefully switch those top fours into some good points. But thank you guys for watching this really long-winded ramble about my trip to Indianapolis. The tournament was awesome. The venue food was really good. Shout outs to everyone that went with me. The Murfreesboro people did amazing. It was or the Middle Tennessee. They're not Murfreesboro, but Middle Tennessee people were amazing. It was very very fun. And we'll see you guys at NAIC. The best is still yet to come. We'll see you guys later. Deuces.